The ranch door groaned open under the Texas sun, and Caleb Thorne stepped out, convinced the wide-open plains meant escape. But there stood Hank Whitaker, his shotgun glinting in the relentless heat. Two more trackers slunk from behind the barn, rifles cocked. The ambush had waited all night. Caleb's fingers twitched toward his holster, the same hand that had caressed Margaret Harlan's cheek just hours ago, the hand that had finally chosen to stay, not flee. Behind him, through the screen door, Maggie gripped her late husband Samuel's old Remington rifle, her knuckles white. At 52, with silver streaks in her chestnut hair, she'd long figured she was past her prime for love, too worn out for the fire that turns a man to ash rather than bend to the law. But now, three souls tangled in a storm of want and reckoning. The ex-sheriff turned bounty man, the drifter who'd left his partner swinging from a noose, and the ranch widow bold enough to love once more. What toll would they pay for that stolen blaze? The Texas wind howled like it knew. Winter had clamped down on Willow Creek like a bad debt, the kind that never lets go. Maggie Harlan swung the axe into the fence post, her breath fogging the chill air. 7 years since Samuel went in the ground, 7 years of the same grind. Dawn patrols of the barbed wire, mending tack by lantern light, prayers that rang hollow as an empty corral. She shot a glance at his faded photo on the mantel, then looked away. Some ghosts were heavier in the twilight. Samuel's Remington hung dusty over the fireplace, a relic of his rules, his world, his claim on her even from the grave. The joke stung. A gun forgotten while trouble circled these hills like coyotes on the prowl. Fresh boot prints in the mud trail led right to her porch, and as dusk swallowed the sky, she heard him coming, boots scraping gravel, ragged breaths, a slump against the door. Poker in hand, Maggie froze. Proper folks didn't crack the door after sundown. Not to strangers, not solo. The knock rasped again, faint as a dying wind. 3 heartbeats, then she twisted the latch. Caleb Thorne nearly tumbled into her, maybe 28, with that rugged jawline carved from dust and defiance. Blood soaked his jeans from a thigh wound, sweat beading his dark curls. His eyes, sharp as flint, held no beg, just raw thanks. "Ma'am," he rasped, voice like gravel and bourbon. "Just need a spot to hole up till morning. No fuss, I swear." Her eyes flicked to the pistol at his belt, then back up. Outlaw, no doubt. But those eyes they pinned her kept the door from slamming. "One night," she muttered. "Gun stays on the porch. And no lying. I could spot a snake from a mile." He nodded, unbuckled the belt, laid it gentle on the rail. "Men after me, yeah, but I don't draw first and never on the good ones. Half the truth, maybe, but it stuck." She guided him to the rocker by the stove, grabbed her sewing box and rags. The graze was ugly, deep enough to ooze, not to kill if cleaned right. "This'll burn," she warned, needle ready. "Already does." Her hands didn't shake as she swabbed and stitched, steadier than in ages. When she last laid hands on a soul, when anyone leaned on her quiet grit, Caleb bit down hard, silent as stone. She admired Thatno's showboating. "Caught in the barn," she said, done. "My door locks. This stays buried." But as she readied for bed, Maggie left her door ajar just a sliver, enough to catch a silhouette by the fire, to ponder the ache of being wanted again. Dawn broke soft after the norther. Maggie stirred to the clang of hammer on nail-steady wax from a fella used to fixing what breaks. Peeking out, she saw Caleb mending the sagging corral gate in Samuel's old duster, sleeves hiked short on his lanky frame. The bad leg held, each swing sending splinters flying. Against her will, her eyes traced the roll of his shoulders, the easy power in his swing. She stepped out with coffee. He paused, swiping his brow despite the bite. "Didn't want to freeload. Figure I owe you for the patch job." "You owe nothing. Mama taught me better." Their fingers grazed on the mug. Neither yanked back quick. "Tell me about her," Maggie said, settling on the steps. Caleb's face eased. Lila Thorne, schoolmarm in a speck of a town up north. Quoted Shakespeare while butchering a steer, Stretch pot, roast for every stray that wandered in. Gone at 15, pneumonia hit fast. He sipped. She'd have liked you. Said you got honest eyes. Maggie felt a flush creep up. She saw the light in folks, even when they couldn't. His gaze locked on hers, direct. Yeah, like now. Heat stirred low in her gut. I gotta hit the feed store in town for wire and beans. But gossip spreads quicker than fire ants there. At Grimes' Feed and Feed, Ethel Grimes' eagle eyes cataloged every grab. Extra bandages, strong coffee, a tin of salve. Mighty stock for a lone widow, Maggie. Winter's gnawing hard, she dodged. From the shadows, a stranger watched tall, leathery, still as a rattler coiled. Their stares crossed. He tipped his hat, but his look chilled her blood. She bolted home to find Caleb oiling the pump at the well, sleeves rolled, scars etching his arms like old maps. Heard engines earlier, he said, not glancing up. Might want to keep that Remington handy. Trackers, or just my ghost yap pin. He tested the handle, nodded. Legs mending fine, thanks to you. But I best skedaddle soon. Can't drag trouble your way. The way he said her name close, like a secret warmed her bones. What if I ain't ready for you to light out? His eyes sharpened. Maggie, I ain't the settling kind. Bad bet for Karen. Maybe I pick my own gambles. The day unspooled thick with what-ifs. Maggie showed him how to brew willow bark tea for the wound. Caleb taught her to cite the Remington True. Talk meandered her dog-eared novels, his rodeos from El Paso to the Panhandle skirting the raw edges of truth. As sun dipped, Caleb pushed for shooting practice by the dry creek bed. Just in case, he lied. They both knew it was cover to stand near, his hands steadying hers on the stock, breath hot on her neck as he murmured on trigger squeeze. The can exploded on her second pull. Maggie hooped, pure and free. When she last cut loose like that. Got it. Caleb grinned, but his eyes weren't on the tin, they drank her in. The pink in her cheeks, the spark in her gaze. The air pulled tight. His palm cupped her jaw, thumb grazing soft. Maggie. She pressed into it. I ought to be scared of you. You oughta. But she wasn't. Only thing scaring me is how you wake me up. His restraint cracked. The kiss started tender, then fierce as she kissed back, arms looping his neck, fingers in his curls. He tasted of dust and dreams, everything she'd buried with Samuel. They parted gasping, rifle ditched in the dirt. Inside, he growled. She nodded, wordless. Back at the house, she slid her wedding band into her pocket-cold metal, but her pulse thrummed hot. That night, the kitchen hummed. Maggie cooked with shaky hands, every brush of him electric. Post-supper, fire crackling, shadows intimate. Something real, she urged soft. Caleb stared into flames. Killed a cheat in Abilene card, shark fleece in ranch hands. He drew. I ended it. Jaw set. But worse, had a pard, Nate Rollins. Solid fella, dumb luck. We hit a rail car for King Good's folks starvin', railroad tycoon sitting pretty. Posse rolled in. I bolted, left Nate holding the bag, and hung him high in the square. Party for the crows. He met her eyes. Should have stood. Maggie took his hand. You ain't running now. How you figure? 'Cause you're here, risking us both. Firelight gilded her hair, silver gold. Caleb's breath hitched. Damn, you're beautiful. Old lady like me? Prettiest I've laid eyes on. The kiss this time was all no holding back. Maggie's hands bunched his shirt as loneliness 7 years deep flooded out. His lips trailed her neck, pulse racing under them. Maggie, he breathed. You sure? She undid his buttons, trembling. Dead sure. He scooped her up, carried her to the bedroom, laid her on the quilt she'd stitched fresh off Samuel's passing. Moonlight bathed her as he eased her blouse free. She arched at his touch, gasped for the curve of her hip, the full weight of her breast. So right, he murmured, mouth worshipping, tongue teasing till she arched higher. His hand ventured south, fingers teasing silk-soft skin. Please, she begged, drawing him close. Eyes locked in silver light. Engines roared multiple trucks, closing fast. Caleb rolled off, yanking clothes. Through the window, 3 men. The stranger from the store, now flashing a badge, eyes scanning like a hawk. "Hi." Maggie shoved him to the storm cellar under the floor. He dropped in as Hank Whitaker's boots thudded the porch. Maggie smoothed her nightgown, opened up, heart pounding. "Evening, Mrs. Harlan." Hank barged in, scanning. "Chili for Callan. Hunting a lowlife." He prowled, spotting 2 mugs, the Remington now oiled by the door. Caleb Thorntall, dark mop, gray peepers. "Pass through." "Nope." Hank's smile was ice. "Lie's got a stink, ma'am." Like fear and lead. Her hand inched to the rifle. "Out." "Where's he at?" "Alone since Samuel." "Always." Hank's knife flashed, thunking the jam inches from her ear. "Law circles back always." He ghosted out. Maggie's knees buckled. She yanked the rug, Caleb surging up like a fever dream wild, wanting. They crashed together, her mouth on his, 7 years crumbling in frantic need. His hands unlaced her, fire glow tracing her bare curves, the dip of her collar, the rise of her chest. "You're shaking." "Long time coming." She popped his buttons. "Don't stop." Forgotten touches, empty beds. Jessie was tender, urgent, mapping her with care. They tumbled to the rug, fierce and sweet, her cries echoing as he claimed her, years fracturing like spring ice. After, she pillowed on his chest, his fingers idling her skin, dozing entwined. Morning slammed reality. Caleb dressed. Maggie brewed Joe, skirting the night. She pocketed the Ringa quiet revolt. "Gotta go," he said low. "Can't endanger you." She wrapped jerky in beans. "Take Samuel's coat." It hung loose on him. "Come with." "Head to the Gulf. Start fresh, no names, no past." She glimpsed the mirror, silver hair, laugh lines, the give of years. Too old to bolt. Not too old to fight for breath. He cupped her face, kissed goodbye sweet. "If I could." The door flew. Hank Whitaker in the yard, shotgun on Caleb's heart. 2 more from a shed and truck, guns up. Ambush sprung while they loved, whispered oaths. Maggie stepped out, Remington leveled. "Let him walk." Hank barked a laugh, dry as dust. "Harboring a fugitive, ma'am. Could cuff you both." Caleb's hand rose slow, holster untouched. "Leave her out. Ain't her fight." "Oh, she's neck deep." Hank eyed the borrowed coat, her tousled look, the smoke of them. "What's she worth?" "World." Hank smirked. "Justice time. You ride with us, trial, then hemp necktie." Maggie's grip whitened. They knew Hank's justice, a shallow grave. Caleb's eyes flicked to her, love and sorry mixed. "Once a runner, no more." "Rope ain't my end," he rumbled. Hand dropped. The yard froze. Maggie squeezed the stock 3 against her love, armed with 7 years' ache and 1 blaze. Odds cruel as a drought. Caleb drew lightning quick, holster whisper smooth from endless drills. In another dust-up, it'd win. But Hank had pinned badges 20 years before bounties. His blast cracked first. The slug ripped Caleb's shoulder, whirling him down, pistol skidding into red mud. "No!" Maggie's wail split the air. She dropped the gun, scrambling to him. He sprawled, blood blooming on Samuel's coat. "Maggie," he wheezed, eyes locking hers. "Didn't run this time." "I know, darling." Tears she damned 7 years carved free. "I know." His bloody hand clasped hers. Stayed true. Lids drooped, grip slackened. Maggie knelt, cradling death, 7 years void roaring back. But under sorrow, a fierce glow, Caleb died his wan bowed. Boots crunched. Hank neared barrel smoking. Loss as a rest for Aiden. She glared through wet. "Do it." Hank paused, seeing her fire, her hold on Caleb like gold. Something human flickered. Law's a blind mule sometimes. He holstered, knelt gentle, shut Caleb's eyes. "Nothing here but a widow scratching by. Bury him proper Atler's stir this season." The trio peeled out in dust clouds. Silence fell, save wind in the mesquite, and a lone buzzard cry. Maggie laid Caleb where they'd shot cans, shards glinting like stars. No stone, just a blue bandana, nodded to a scrub oak. In Willow Creek, questions killed quick, secrets buried deep. Ethel poked, with pies and saris for woes unspoken. But Maggie mastered quiet. She stitched bridles, worked the garden, spoke sparse. Subtle shifts, Remington cleaned, loaded handy. Bluebonnets in the window, boxes, first blooms since Samuel. Monthly train to Austin for novels. Calico, treats she'd shunned. Ring? Gone forever. Spring lagged, but hit hard. Maggie porch sat one dawn, watching melt into creeks, mockingbirds trilling. The bandana waved, sun faded but bold. Caleb lingered in thoughts, his thumb on her lip, voice rapping her name, his stand. Some love spanned decades, others pulses. Both count. She deemed herself too jaded for fire, too rooted for shake-up. Caleb proved wrong bravery's not fearlessness, but pushing through. Maggie Harlan lived 25 more years on that spread. No remarriage, but solitude? Nah, the sparky lit burned steady, warming her to the end under Texas stars. What do you think should Maggie have turned Caleb in from the start? Or was risking it all for that one wild love worth every scar? Drop your take in the comments. Side with the heart or the law. Let's debate it out. The cabin door swung open in the crisp Colorado dawn, where the Rocky Mountains loomed like silent guardians. Clara Bennett stepped out, her boots crunching on the frost-kissed gravel, believing that at 52, her days of unexpected turns were long behind her. But Harlan Reed waited in the yard, his Remington pistol catching the first rays of sun, flanked by two shadows emerging from the pines. "Morning, Luke Carson," Harlan drawled, his voice like gravel under wheels. Inside, through the frost-laced window, Clara gripped her late husband's old lever-action rifle, her salt and pepper hair framing a face etched with years of quiet endurance. She'd sworn off love after burying Tom 7 winters ago, convinced passion was for the young and foolish. Yet here they were, 3 lives tangled in a web of loyalty, betrayal, and the kind of desire that could burn a life to ashes. What price would they pay for defying the odds? The answer hung in the frozen air like gun smoke. Winter had clamped down on Pine Ridge like a vice, the small Colorado town where folks minded their own, but rumors spread faster than wildfire. Clara Bennett chopped firewood in the dying light, her breaths puffing out in white clouds against the biting chill. 7 years since Tom's heart gave out on that very porch, leaving her to the rhythm of solitary days, feeding the chickens at sunrise, patching fences by noon, and whispering half-hearted prayers before bed. She glanced at his faded photo on the mantel, then looked away. Some memories weighed too heavy for twilight. The tracks in the snow caught her eye-fresh boot prints leading right to her door. Night had fallen hard when the stranger showed up. She heard him first, ragged breaths, a heavy slump against the wood. Clara froze, poker iron in hand. Decent widows didn't open doors after dark, especially not alone in these hills where outlaws roamed like ghosts. The knock came again, fainter. She hesitated, then turned the latch. Luke Carson tumbled in, maybe 28, with the rugged good looks of a man who'd seen too many bad roads. Blood soaked his jeans from a thigh wound, snow clinging to his sandy blonde hair. His blue eyes held a mix of pain and quiet Resolvino begging, just raw need. "Ma'am," he rasped, voice like bourbon over rocks. "Just need a spot to hole up for the night." "No trouble, I swear." Her eyes flicked to the 6-shooter on his belt, then back to his face. Bandit, no doubt. But something in those eyes' honesty amid the desperation stayed her hand. "One night," she said firmly. "Leave the gun outside, and don't feed me lies. I could spot him a mile off." He nodded, unbuckled the holster, and placed it on the rail with care. "Men are after me, but I don't draw first on innocence." It was a partial truth, but enough. She led him to the armchair by the hearth, grabbed her mending kit and linens. The bullet had skimmed deep, but not fatal. "This'll sting," she warned, needle in hand. "Already does," he grunted, teeth clenched as she stitched. She admired his stoicismo, whining, just endurance. "You'll bunk on the sofa," she said when done. "My room stays shut. We don't breathe a word of this." But as she readied for bed, Clara left her door ajar just a crack to hear if he stirred, to catch the firelight on his sharp jaw as he slept, to wonder what it felt like to matter again. Dawn broke with the steady thunk of an axe. Clara peered out. Luke in Tom's old flannel jacket, sleeves riding up his strong arms, splitting logs despite the limp. Each swing was precise, muscles rippling under the fabric. She stepped out with coffee, steam rising in the cold. "Didn't want to freeload," he said, taking the mug. Their fingers brushed, lingering a beat too long. "You own nothing," she replied, but her voice softened. "Tell me about him, your husband?" Luke asked after a sip. "Tom Bennett. Rancher, steady as these mountains. Gone 7 years now." She paused. "Raised me to handle my own. He'd be proud. Luke's Eichmithhirsch. My pa was a miner in these parts. Taught me to fix what's broken, even if it's yourself. Lost him young to a cave-in." The warmth in his gaze stirred something dormant in her. Later, at the general store in town, Mabel Green's eyes narrowed over Clara's purchases. Extra bandages, strong coffee, a tin of molasses. "Stocking up for one, Clara? Winter's biting hard." "Just being prepared," Clara said evenly. In the corner, a tall stranger watched weathered face, predator's stance. His nod chilled her, but she hurried home. Luke was fixing the barn door hinge, sleeves rolled, scars mapping his forearms like old trails. "Her horses earlier," he said. "Keep that rifle handy. Could be hunters or trouble." She nodded, standing close as he tested the repair. "Your leg's mending, but staying risks you too. Clara," he said her name like a secret, "I won't drag you into my mess. What if I don't want you gone?" The air thickened. That afternoon, she showed him her herbal brew for healing. He taught her to oil the rifle properly. Talk flowed. Books she devoured by lantern light, towns he drifted through. As dusk fell, he suggested shooting practice at the edge of the woods. "Just in case," he said, but it was pretext. His hand steadied hers on the stock, breath warm on her neck. "Breathe steady, squeeze slow." The can exploded on her second shot. She laughed, a sound foreign after years of silence, her cheeks flushing. "You're a quick study," Luke murmured, thumb grazing her cheek. The kiss ignited like dry tinder, gentle, then fierce. She pulled him closer, hands in his hair, tasting freedom and fire. They broke apart, breathless, the rifle in the snow. "Inside," he said hoarsely. She slipped off her wedding band, pocketing it as they hurried in. That night, the cabin hummed with tension. Over stew, every glance sparked. By the fire, Clara broke the silence. "Tell me the truth, Luke." He stared into the flames. "Shot a crooked banker in Denver who was fleecing widows out of their land. He drew first, but worse, I had a buddy, Mike Riley. We hit a payroll wagon during a drought, thinking we'd feed starving families. Cavalry came. I bolted, left him to swing from a noose." Clara took his hand. "You're no coward now. Because of you." He kissed her, tracing her neck, igniting years of pent-up longing. They tumbled to the bed, his touch reverent on her curves, her gasps filling the room as he explored with lips and hands. Moonlight bathed them as he entered her, slow and deep, waves of pleasure crashing until she cried out. They collapsed, entwined, but hoofbeats shattered the Peace Riders closing in. Luke sprang up, peering out. 3 men, led by the store stranger, now sporting a bounty badge. "Hide," Clara urged, shoving him to the cellar under the rug. The knock boomed. Clara opened to Harlan Reed, who pushed in, eyes scanning. "Evening, Mrs. Bennett." "Hunting a fugitive Luke Carson, blonde, blue eyes." "Haven't seen him." Harlan's knife sank into the doorframe near her head. "Lies stink like rot." Law finds its way. He left, but Clara's knees buckled. Luke emerged, pulling her into a frantic embrace. They shed clothes urgently, making love by the fire desperate, tender, her nails raking his back as ecstasy built and broke. They slept tangled, but morning brought dread. Luke dressed, Clara packed food. Come with Mewis to Oregon, start fresh. She saw her reflection, lines of age, but fire in her eyes. I'm too old for that life. You're alive, Clara. That's enough. His kiss tasted a farewell. The door opened to Harlan, gun drawn. Luke Carson. Two more flanked him, rifles up. Clara grabbed the rifle. Let him go. Harlan smirked. Harboring a wanted man? I could haul you both. Let her walk, Luke said. I'll come quiet. Quiet means a trial. Then the rope, Harlan said. Luke's eyes met Clara's slow sorrow. He wouldn't hang like a dog. His hand dropped. Shots exploded. Luke drew fast, but Harlan's bullet slammed his chest, spinning him down in a spray of red. No, Clara screamed, dropping to him. Blood pooled on Tom's jacket. I stayed, he whispered, hand in hers, eyes dimming. Harlan approached, holstering. Law says arrest you too. But his face softened. Sometimes justice bends. Bury him, good coyotes prowl. They rode off. Clara buried Luke by the shooting spot, marking it with his blue kerchief on a pine. In Pine Ridge, Mabel pried, but Clara stonewalled. She oiled the rifle daily, planted daisies in boxes, rode to Denver for fabrics and novel small rebellions. No ring graced her finger. Spring thawed the peaks. Clara watched streams rush, birds sing. Luke's memory warmed her, his touch, his choice to fight. She lived 25 more years, alone but whole, love's ember eternal in Colorado's embrace. What do you think about Clara's choices harboring a fugitive, falling for a younger man, or standing her ground? Share your take in the comments below. Do you side with her defiance, or see it as reckless? Let's hear your views.